Welcome to another tutorial video. I wanted to go back into project finance today and talk about a somewhat important topic there called the Debt Service Reserve Account, or DSRA, and also go over reserve accounts in general. You will see these a lot in project finance models. We have also seen them come up several times in case studies in this field. So for all the files and resources, you'll want to go to our Debt Service Reserve Account page in our project finance section in our knowledge base. I will pin this URL below the video so you can just click it and get all the files and links there. And this is another summary or excerpt from our full project finance and infrastructure modeling course. So as always, I'm going to start with the short version, give you a demo, and then go into a more extended version and actually walk you through the formula construction. In project finance, the debt service reserve account ensures that an asset has enough cash on hand to meet its upcoming debt service in the next period. Essentially, the DSRA prevents equity investors from contributing capital to fund the upcoming debt service if the asset has some type of cash shortfall. Normally, the debt service here is based on something that is months or quarters into the future, and so it's really the most relevant for very seasonal assets like solar and wind plants. Obviously, a solar farm is going to generate a lot more electricity in the summer months than in the winter months. So the cash flows are going to fluctuate quite a lot between the quarters and months of the year. But the debt service reserve account also works well when there's an unexpected expense or if there's some type of emergency equipment replacement or upgrade or something like that. For example, let's say that investors know that replacements are required on a solar plant in year 5. And let's say that initially they think that these replacements are going to cost about 22 million, but something goes wrong and they end up costing 90 million. So let's go into Excel and just take a quick look at this. I am bringing up a version of the simplified project finance file that we've used in a couple demonstrations so far. If you scroll down and you go over to year 5 and you look at the cash flow build here, where we go from EBITDA down to cash flow available for debt service, you can see that there is an entry here in year 5 for $22 million for the maintenance capex. So that's our initial starting condition. But we're saying that the costs here quadruple. So they go up to around 90 million from this 22 million. And as a result, the cash flow available for debt service falls from about 178 million to 110 million. So let's go in and enter this. I'll say 90 million for the maintenance capex here. And sure enough, the cash flow available for debt service falls to 110 million. And the specific issue this creates is that now, if you look at the debt service here, we have 119 million of debt service, but we only have 110 million available to actually service the debt in this period. And so as a direct result, our cash flows here turn negative. And if you go down and look at what happens further down in the model, essentially the equity investors here need to contribute additional capital just to service the debt in this period. And this is not good. All investors try to avoid this type of outcome. And a debt service reserve account can prevent this type of thing from happening or reduce the risk of it happening. If you properly provision the DSRA in prior years, there should be enough cash available to pay the lenders without the equity investors contributing. So let's go into Excel and look at how this works. If I go up to the top and where we have our switch here for use debt service reserve account, if I change this to 1, let's go down and look at the mechanics now. So with this in place, essentially the first few years of this model, the DSRA gets funded, and then occasionally we build up an excess, and so we release that excess over time. But when we get to year 5, you can see what happens. We still get a much lower cash flow available for debt service, and as a result, our cash flow after the debt service year is negative, but the difference is that now we can actually withdraw something from the DSRA, this 8.6 million here, to fund this, and therefore the DSRA here covers the fact that our cash flows turn negative and prevents the equity investors from taking a loss. So if you go down and look at this, you can see it very well here. The normal debt service coverage ratio drops to below 1x, but if we look at a modified ratio that includes the effect of this debt service reserve account, this is actually just at 1x. And if you look at the year 5 cash flows and the returns calculations here, we no longer have a negative here for the cash flow to equity investors in that year because they don't have to fund anything to pay for the debt service in this period. And so that is the basic point of a DSRA. So that's the very short version. For the rest of this tutorial, first I'm going to cover why reserve accounts are used in general in project finance. Then we will walk through some simple DSRA formulas and setup, and then I'll talk about a few added complexities in real life models. So with reserve accounts in general, the basic idea is that in project finance, you often want to smooth out the cash flows and ensure that there's enough to meet upcoming cash outflows, debt service, and other requirements. In project finance, debt is often sized and sculpted based on the future cash flows, and so a huge one-time cash outflow could easily distort the cash flow available for debt service. This type of one-time event can often reduce the upfront debt that's used, even if the rest of the period looks fine. Even if 19 out of 20 years look fine, if 1 year is off and cash flows plummet to a much lower level just because of something like an equipment replacement, that can actually distort the debt that's used for the entire project. But if you know about it in advance or have an idea about it in advance, reserve accounts can be a partial solution. So for example, let's look at this file where the cash flow available for debt service simply rises by 5 per year. The debt service coverage ratio stays at this fixed 1.5x in every single year. Now, if I go to year 5 and say that suddenly we have an $80 million expense or cash outflow here that reduces the cash flow available for debt service, it falls to 40 in this period, and then the debt service coverage ratio falls to 1.2x. This is a problem because the minimum debt service coverage ratio here is actually 1.5x. So what we can do instead is assume that we put 16 per year into the debt service reserve account, reduce our cash flow in those years, and then we'll have enough to meet that 80 million cash outflow by year 5. So if I take each of these and I just subtract 16, let's do this and then do a copy and paste as values. You can see how it works. By accepting lower cash flows over these first 5 years, we maintain the debt service coverage ratio at this 1.5x level. And even when we have this big cash outflow in year 5, because of the fact that we have provisioned for it in this reserve account, it doesn't actually impact us. We can still service all the debt, we can still maintain the minimum debt service coverage ratio, and so everything there works out. Now, this is a little bit unrealistic because normally the deposits and withdrawals for reserve accounts are below the cash flow available for debt service line, and they don't affect that line at all. So this is more about what happens to the cash flows to equity, but the basic principle is still true. You're giving up some cash flows earlier on to provision them for a big upcoming expense in later years. So let's go back to that original file I showed you. I have cleared all the formulas off screen, and I will show you how to enter these in Excel and how to set up everything here. Now again, the main purpose with the debt service reserve account is to ensure that the cash flow to equity stays positive. So we're going to start by creating a few new areas, and then we'll go down and I'll show you how to enter all the formulas. I've outlined some of them here, and these are here for your reference, but let's just go into Excel right now and start entering these. We're going to start with the cash flow post debt service. So let's take the cash flow available for debt service and then subtract the debt service right here. And we can copy this across because we're going to need to reference this throughout. Next, we need to start setting up the debt service reserve account. And we'll assume that it starts at 0 in the very beginning here. And then in each period after that, the beginning DSRA equals the ending DSRA from the previous period. And then we'll sum this up. And I can copy this across for now, but it's a little bit pointless without the rest of the formulas in place. With the DSRA funding, you normally want to start by thinking about what's actually required to fund this. And normally this is based on what the debt service in the next period is. So we can go forward 1 year here, and then we can subtract whatever's in the reserve right now. We're subtracting whatever's in the reserve because if we have 128 in debt service in the next period, but we have 100 in our reserve already, we don't need to provision 128. We just need to provision an extra 28 to bring us up to that level to meet the debt service. So we have that. Of course, there's a problem with this, which is that it's all well and good to say that we need to provision this much, but our cash flow post debt service is only around 59 or 60 here. So we can only fund this to the extent that we have the cash flow to do so. So therefore, we need a minimum function around this, and we need to compare it to our cash flow post debt service. Now, something else that we should do as good practice is to put a max 0 around this to make sure that this never turns negative. We don't really need it in this specific case, but I do think it is good to have something like this. And then I'm also going to multiply by our flag up here about whether we're actually using a DSRA in this model, just so we can flip this on and off quite easily. Now, for the withdrawals from the DSRA, the idea here is that we want to withdraw from the DSRA if our cash flow post debt service turns negative. So we're going to flip its sign and then take the max between that new number and 0. So I'll say max between the negative of our cash flow post debt service and 0. So when the cash flow post debt service is positive, nothing happens here. But if this turns negative, so if this is negative 20, let's say, well, now we need to withdraw something from our DSRA to pay for this because we don't want this cash flow number to be negative. So that is how it works. Of course, you see a problem with it, which is that right now we're withdrawing 20, but our beginning DSRA is 0. So this is completely impossible. I'll undo that change, and then I'll go over here and I'll fix this up. And once again, we need to use a minimum function here. So we need to compare this to our beginning DSRA, because we never want to say that we can withdraw more than what currently exists in the reserve account. So we have that, and then I'll multiply by the flag again. So we have that. And if we just do a quick check of this, this now sort of appears to work, because at least when our DSRA here is 0, we can't possibly withdraw anything to cover this cash flow. Now, if I change this to something like 10, we can see a small problem, which is that this is shown as a positive. It should really be a negative, because we want the withdrawal to reduce the DSRA. So I'll put a negative sign in front of this. And then I'll just restore this part at the top, so we have this in normal functioning state. Now, if we just copy across what we have so far, so I can show you how this works for our scenario here, you can see it pretty well, that we keep funding the DSRA in the earlier period, and we need a few years to build this up. And then when we get to year 5, and we have this 90 million maintenance capex from the equipment replacement, then we effectively use up about 9 million of the DSRA to cover that. So that is how this works. Now, something else that happens here is that if you're not careful, the DSRA can simply stay in place at 139 million or whatever it is until the very end of the period here, which you don't want. What you want to have happen is that if you get to the point where you no longer need the DSRA, or where it's clearly too big for the upcoming debt service, you also want to be able to release some of the cash flows from it into the asset's normal cash flows. To do this, you can look at the upcoming debt service minus the DSRA, and if this is ever negative, then you should just release all of this to the cash flows instead. And this will also ensure that when the debt is completely repaid, then the entire DSRA is simply released to the cash flows. So we'll take the min between this and 0. We're doing that to ensure that if this is negative, we show it, but if this is some positive number, then we're not going to have anything here. A release doesn't make sense in that case. And I'll multiply by the flag once again, and let's copy this over. And so you can see what happens, that in year 4, we actually build up an excess and we release some of it. And then in the last 2 years here, toward the end of the debt's tenor, we finally release the entire DSRA because we repay the debt. The last debt service here is in column P, and so we no longer need a DSRA after this because there is no more debt outstanding. Now, once you have that, you also need to make sure that you link this to the rest of the model. So for example, for the DSRA funding, this should be a negative because this reduces our cash flow to the equity investors. And then the DSRA withdrawals should be a positive here, and the excess DSRA release should also be a positive. And then you can sum these up, and then we can copy these across. And so we have that. And so you can see how this works. Essentially here, the equity investors give up some of their early cash flows. They earn either a lot less or nothing at all, so that they can instead divert these cash flows into building up the reserve. And then the reserve is indeed useful here in year 5. And then after that, it doesn't really make a huge difference because we don't really have much in the way of withdrawals or releases until the very end when the debt is completely paid off here in column P, which happens in year 10 in this model. If you look at the overall impact on the rest of this, you can see that in the returns calculations, the cash flows to equity investors here are now being linked to the cash flow post-debt service and reserves. So we want the cash flows after all these items. Also, the cash flow yield here has been relinked, and it's now linked to the same cash flow post-debt service and reserve line. If you consider the impact on the returns here, let's go up and look at this. If I enter 0 for the DSRA, so we're no longer using it at all, the equity IRR here is 11%, whereas if we enable this now and set this to 1, now the equity IRR falls to 10%. And it's not surprising because of the fact that essentially the DSRA delays and diminishes these early distributions to the equity investors. It's like I said in the title slide, we are protecting the lenders and reducing the lenders' risk at the expense of the cash flows to the equity investors, especially in the early periods here. So that's a basic setup. I just have some notes in PowerPoint here on everything that we just went through. The last topic I want to cover is some added complexities about the debt service reserve account. So in real life, you often have non-annual models, quarterly models, monthly models, things like that. You may have variable periods. So it may not always be looking ahead 1 year or 1 quarter. you could vary it based on the assumption. So it could be 2 quarters or 3 quarters or 4 months or 6 months or something else like that. The trigger conditions could be different. In most cases, yes, the debt service reserve account is about ensuring proper cash for the upcoming debt service, but it could be linked to the DSCR or some other type of credit stat like EBITDA to interest or debt to EBITDA, for example. And then finally, there are interactions with other reserve accounts because there's usually some type of cash flow waterfall in project finance. And so you have to order and prioritize the reserve accounts, the cash trap, and other items like that. So I'm just going to pull up an example from our course very quickly of this quarterly solar model where we have a bunch of different reserve accounts, or at least 2, the DSRA and also a cash trap here, which limits distributions to the equity investors based on other trigger conditions. So these interact with each other, and you have to be very careful about what the order is and what the priority is and all that. And then this is also a quarterly model, which means that when you look ahead and determine the required DSRA funding, for example, and you get the forward-looking debt service, you have to use functions like offset to figure out what you're looking at and to add up the proper numbers because we can look forward a variable number of quarters here as well. So those are just a few of the added complexities. DSRAs are very common in project finance models, but luckily in case studies, you normally don't need to go through and implement all of these, but it's certainly good to be familiar with the basic idea. Let's do a quick recap and summary now. Reserve accounts in project finance are intended to smooth out cash flows over time to make the debt sculpting and sizing process easier, and also, in the case of the DSRA, to protect the lenders and ensure that they get paid properly by having the asset allocate some cash flow, set aside some cash flow, put it into this reserve balance, and use it to meet upcoming large one-time items or other types of emergency spending that may come up. They're also very useful for handling seasonal assets. We went through the DSRA formulas and setup. In short, you allocate based on the upcoming debt service relative to the beginning DSRA. You withdraw if there is some type of cash flow deficit, and you withdraw to the greatest extent possible with the current DSRA. And then if you get into a situation where it builds up to too high a level, you release some of that cash to the asset's normal cash flows. And of course, when the debt is finally repaid at the end, you release everything and the DSRA goes to 0. And then with added complexities, we went through an example of a non-annual model, a variable look-forward period. There could be different trigger conditions, and there are also other reserve accounts in many project finance models, and so you have to order and prioritize the interactions with them. That's about it for this tutorial on the debt service reserve account. Hopefully now you know a little bit more about it and feel more confident if you get something like this in a case study or a modeling test.